All right. Happy New Year, everyone. It is the first week of 2021, and I hope your year is off to a fabulous start. If you haven't watched the two how-to videos, I did one on how to win in 2021 and then another on how to make your New Year's resolution. So both videos are designed to help you set yourself up for success. And so is this evening's training. You guys know I am here for you. I am absolutely out to help you better understand self development, self improvement, and what is required and needed for you to grow, to change, and to improve. Now, today, depending where you're joining from, we're going to talk about self awareness. Self awareness is the foundation of all self development, really, of life, of being alive. So, let me go ahead, let me share my screen, and let's get this going. All right, here we go. Okay, so it all starts with self awareness. Here's the agenda. We're going to talk about what is self awareness, why it's the foundation of self development in all life, and ways to increase your self awareness. I'm Anne, the CEO of 365 First, if you don't know me by now. And I go by the master of first time. So my life revolves around first time and new experiences, past, present, and future, and all things action-based self-development, especially through first times and new experiences. And we'll start getting more into self-development through first times. We're going to start covering some of that topic. Just checking in, see if anybody else is joining in. All right, so what is self-awareness? It is the conscious, so it's your awareness that you are aware. So it is the conscious knowledge of one's own character, personality, feelings, thoughts, motives, and desires. It's everything there's to know about you and what makes you you and who you are. So, and another thing about self-awareness to realize is that it's always changing. It's a moving target, right? So as things happen to you, they impact you and they change you, whether or not you're aware of it. So that's why the conscious knowledge is self-awareness, right? Because you might not be aware of how you are changing and who you are becoming if you're not checking in on who you are. So, and of course, like I said, I will give you some methods to do that. So, why is self awareness the foundation of self development? All right, well, it's life, it's who you are. So, how can you know what you want out of life if you don't know who you are? And you'll be thinking, well, all right, Anne, it's a little bit like the chicken and egg dough, right? So, if I haven't experienced life, then how can I know if that's what I want or what I don't want? So, very true. And the older you get, the more experience that you've had, then yes, it does become easier to have higher self awareness if you're constantly tapping into it. But when you're first starting out and you're just exploring what life has to offer and what it means to you, then this might be a chicken and egg type of thing. So let's address that. You, no matter how old you are and where you are starting in life, you should have at least a baseline understanding of who you are. And that baseline understanding ties in to, your personality traits, your preferences, your character. What are you prone to do? How do you act? Those things, as soon as you're a young adult, you start having certain behavior, you start having certain reactions, you start having certain thoughts, you start having certain feelings. So those are starting to register and paint a picture of who you are. So no matter how old you are, you should have that baseline of understanding. And then as you have more experiences, as more things happen to you, then that continues to get expanded. And that's why it's always constantly evolving, because things are constantly happening to you. Different circumstances are coming your way. So you want to have a very strong start point. So we're going to talk about how to create that start point, but no matter what, you want to have the baseline and a starting point of who you are. Because who's driving your life, right? Who's in charge of where you're heading? Who's in charge of how you make up your mind? Who's in charge of how you make your decisions? So here, as far as like making up your mind, so we're going to talk about your decision and making process, right? Which is tied to your self-awareness. How you make up your mind, how, you know, you make up your mind about other people, you make up your mind about what you want, making up your mind about what you don't want. It like, how do you make up your mind if you don't know who you are? Who you are is that baseline, is that starting point for you to be able to make up your mind. Trying to decide something, well, how do you make any decisions if you don't know who you are, right? So to make a decision, you have to base it on what you want, what you desire, what's best for you, right? How will you benefit the most out of this decision? What's going to happen once you've made the decision? Now, you might be making a decision you've never made before, so it's hard for you to know what will happen, but you should be able to make a prediction of what might happen based on who you are and what you know about yourself, because that should be rooted in your decision making. So how will that decision impact your life? So being able to visualize how things might turn out based on what you know about yourself, based on what you know about the circumstances, and then proceeding to make the decision, understanding that decision have consequences. What has been your past decisions? How did they turn out for you? How did you make those decisions? If you had really good decisions with good outcomes, then you can feel confident you're a good decision maker. It's something that you know about yourself. But if you've had constant bad outcomes from your decisions, then there's something about who you are and how you make decisions that's off kilter. So you have to address the decision-making process and who you are as part of that decision-making process. Because I can teach you everything about decision-making, but what's going to matter to that is you. And that's why self-awareness is so critical and important. You're trying to change, right? So self-improvement, self-development, usually you're trying to prove and you're trying to change. Well, you're trying to change from to what? If you're not aware of who you are, then you don't have a strong from point. You don't have a strong starting point. So you need to know who you are. And then as you know, what that changes and what's going to look like after. So from to what? So self-awareness is key to change. You want to learn, you want to go back to school, you want to learn something new, anything that's tied to learning. Okay, that's great. For it to be successful for you, for it to be maximized, you need to know what's your learning style. What comes easy for you? What's difficult, right? What are your interests? What should you focus on learning? What are you interested in, passionate about? And how are you going to apply what you learned so you get value out of it? It is all tied in self-awareness, in knowing who you are. So when you know who you are, you maximize your efforts because you go out and you leverage what is best for you. If you haven't watched it yet, I did a webinar on find your own solution, right? So there's no one size fits all. There's no one size fits all answer. So you have to find your own solution. Well, that foundation is your self-awareness, and we're digging into why that is, because what my learning style might be different than yours, right? What comes easy for me, what is difficult for me might be very different. Like I love learning. I enjoy it. I suck at taking tests. So for a while, because I really love learning, but the test just kicked my butt and I hated that, it kind of gave me, a little bit of a bad taste for learning, certainly for like a structured, like school, college environment. That wasn't for me. Learning, love it. It is for me. And certain things will stick, certain things I learned and they don't necessarily stick, but the impression, they still leave an impression on me. So that's unique to me. And I have learned how to leverage that to make it work for myself. So that's you need to have that understanding of yourself. So if you struggle with learning or you have a certain learning disability, I don't have any learning disabilities. So for me to teach you certain things, if I don't know that about yourself, then I'm not going to be a good instructor for you. But if you know that about yourself, then you can use a piece of instruction that I provide you and add to the equation your learning disability and then figure out how to make it work or ask the right question to get assistance to make it work. So it's very important that you always make yourself part of the equation. Who you are has to, for everything that you do, be part of the equation, which means you need to know who you are. Do you have a goal that you're working on? Right? So why do you want this goal? So many people are pursuing things and they don't know why. Right? So how does that align with who you are, what you want out of life? Now, there's nothing wrong with pursuing a goal and knowing why you're pursuing it, and then realizing, and then your priorities changing and things changing. But then you're conscious of that, you have the full realization that that is happening for you. And again, you're part of decision making in the process. You're always part of the equation. So, what internal resources do you have? I talked about that in that other training, right? Your internal resources, your self-discipline, your willpower, your confidence level, your energy, your health, those are the internal resources that you have to leverage in order to meet a goal. What are yours? I guarantee you that yours are different than mine. Your priorities are different than mine. And all of that drives what I want out of life. It drives what I have available to me to achieve what I want out of life. And it's the same for you. You have to know that. So, how does this goal align with your strengths and weaknesses? So you need to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. What's in your favor and what's working against you. So that could be circumstances based, but that's what's happening in your life is part of who you are, right? So my circumstances, again, are different than your circumstances. So we could be working on the same exact goal, and we're going to go about meeting that goal differently because we're not the same person. Okay, so how will the success impact your life? How are you going to handle the setbacks and the failures if those happen, right? So, those are all things unique to you that you need to have the understanding of. What do you have control of, right? So, what's in your control? That is massive as far as understanding who you are, your environment, and even your behaviors and your reactions, your action, because some of it is in your control, some of it is not in your control. Having an understanding of what's in your control. Do you even know what's in your control, right? So understanding who you are includes what is in your control, having that understanding. So, what does it mean to you? Any of it, all of it, right? Life, aspects of life, things that are happening in the world. I might have different interests of what I'm tracking in the world based on who I am and my interests and my goals and all that. You might not be tracking those things because they're they're just they're not enhancing you. They're not interest, they're not interests of yours. So you need to have that understanding, but also the understanding of what you are interested in, that it has an impact on you. It has an impact on how you make decision, especially if you find yourself in an echo chamber, right? So that is all part of who you are, and you have to have a very, very clear understanding of that. So at Z dropped off. Um, Michael has joined us. Thank you for joining. All right. So now we're going to get into how do you increase, whoop, how do you increase your self-awareness? I'm going to cover a few ways, a few exercise, different things. Now, uh, these webinars are meant to be quick, and it is always a lot of content, which means I'm going to pull more of this and create other trainings around it. So I'm going to give you the highlight of it. If you want the actual exercises, then I invite you to email me or go to the 365 First Challenge website, sign up for the newsletter where I send out that information, right? So if you want access to those, let me know and we'll get it. Like, I have created a questionnaire. If you want access to the questionnaire, let me know. So one of the first steps to raise your self-awareness is to question yourself. So one could be, like I said, I have a questionnaire. So going through that questionnaire and asking yourself the question, journaling your answers, and digging deeper into your answers and what those questions mean. The other one are, there are a lot of different personalities tests out there. Now, do not, you know, do not do a personality test and actually try to fit the test of who you are. It's, use it as a guideline. It might confirm certain things that you know about yourself. It might enhance the understanding of something that you do believe you know about yourself. So just, it's a great support tool, but it's definitely not the end all to be all, because you don't want anybody else dictating to you who you are. You want to go on a discovery process to discover who you are. All right. The next one is to create timelines. So create timelines of your life, of sections of your life. I do timelines all the time because I always reflect back on different times of my life, the things that happened, because it allows me to know who I was during that time period versus who I am now. Did I grow? Did I change? And a lot of it ties to the patterns and the scripts that, we all have. So the timelines allow me to tap into, okay, the last time I was an entrepreneur and I followed, I was on the entrepreneurial journey. What's everything that happened within that timeline? So it's about a 4-year timeline, right? So I can delve into that, see what kept coming up back then, what's coming up now. What are the same patterns? What are the ones that serve me? What are the ones that are not serving me? What are my scripts? What did I learn? And, carry forward from those experiences. So right now, I spent, when I was a kid, I struggled with my weight. I had an eating disorder. Then when I was 16, I started going to the gym and I changed my diet and I realized, oh, I can put on muscles. So that for the next 20 plus years became a driving factor. And then I had different injuries. A lot of stress in my life. I left the Marine Corps, started the entrepreneurial journey. I had a lot of failures and I started turning to food more and more and more. And I put on a lot of weight. And then I decided, make the decision, I'm going to compete in bodybuilding, dropped 50 pounds, stepped on stage. And then, then I stabilized again. And then I went back into a timeline where I put on weight. So all of those timelines I have clarity around what happened, what was going on, and what were my patterns, and I turned to food, right? So I turned to food for comfort. So it creates such a great, creating timelines creates such a great understanding. It's also, you can, start your timeline, first major event. I'm going to talk that in the next slide, but the first major events that have impacted your life. So one of the things to do as well is to archive your life with first time storytelling. There's a little typo here. There's a T missing. So understanding, the first times and how they impacted you, they shaped you, the dominoes that fell. So, I look at my timeline, probably the first major event was when my parents got divorced. What did that imprint? What did I learn from that? So that's part of the timeline. The archive is, all the first time, first love, first kiss, first heartbreak, first time I travel, like all of those firsts that have left an impression, and they give me story to tell. But telling those stories and archiving allows me to have that history again to go back to, because when something reoccurs, right? So the biggest thing I am working on is to help people break the loops that they're caught in. And there's nothing like timelines to help you see your patterns and see your loops. So your timelines and archiving your life with first time storytelling. So I invite you, we have a sister channel, First Time Storytelling. You can get a lot of information there about that, as well as in February, there's a summit. I have a virtual summit coming up, 23 February. So all day long free summit to learn how to become a first time storyteller. So that's part of the 365 family. All right. The other thing is to create influence trees. So an influence tree, instead of a family tree, it's a tree. So it's similar to a family tree, but what you're doing it is that you're using it to see who has influence over you and who do you have influence over. And then how do the people that have influence over you, how do they use that influence on you, right? And how does that influence impact you? So some people might have influence on you and it's a very positive influence, right? Because they're helping you grow, they're pushing you, they're challenging you, right? They're great leaders in your life. And you have some people that might be influencing you, they're draining you, they're, trying to manipulate you. So the influence tree allows you to have that understanding, because who you are definitely is tied to who has influence over you. And then who do you have influence over? And then how do you yield that influence and that power that you might have over somebody? Are you a positive influence on someone or not? And then that's very telling about who you are. So if you're a manipulative person, yes, something to work on. So creating an influence tree is a great way to raise your self-awareness and discover your self-awareness. Becoming an out-of-body observer. So gaining the ability to be able to observe yourself, observe your behaviors, observe who you are, observe your reaction. So when something happens, instead of reacting to it, you're able to pause and you're able to observe yourself and work through how you want to react. Or you do react, but you record it. It's one of those, like, you had a reaction, you recorded it. Now you go back out as a third party observer and you rewatch the situation. So let's say you got in an argument with someone and you got heated about it, right? It happened. You had the reaction, but you recorded it, right? So there's an out of body self that recorded it. And now that you calm down, you can go back and you can replay what happened, and think about, you're not looking to validate how you behave and reacted. You're looking to find out if it was justified, if that was your best self, if that's who you want to be, if that's in a situation like that, is that, who you want to be. So you want to have the ability to be an out of body observer to situations that happen. When you find yourself in a situation, being able to talk yourself through it, ask yourself questions. I mean, I don't have that as a slide. I'll actually add it for the next time I present that, but you should be talking yourself. Like, if you don't have conversations with yourself, you're missing out, because that's a key way of getting to know yourself. So, I will ask myself questions and I will answer the questions. It's not, I don't do different voices or anything like that. Maybe sometimes I do, but really want to entertain myself. But I have many conversations with myself, and that conversation might just be, why did you act that way? What are you thinking right now? What are you feeling right now? Why do you feel that? Right. And that's actually becomes key of becoming a storyteller, because when you're going to communicate through storytelling, you're going to be expressing those things. You're going to want to express your thoughts, your feelings, and emotions. So, developing the ability to be an out of body observer, to record what happened and then to go back and reassess. It's a great way of, understanding who you are, and then, pinpointing how you want to continue to grow and improve. All right, another fabulous way that's part of the 365 First family and concept is to start your journey of first times and new experiences, because there's nothing like doing something new that's going to make you realize, huh, I didn't know that about myself. Oh, well, this is interesting that I'm discovering this. Or you might rediscover something about yourself that you hadn't thought of for a really long time, or you hadn't felt, because you hadn't created an environment or situation for you to face those feelings or those thoughts or those experiences. So getting into changing your environment as a way to rediscover who you are through the journey of first time and your experience is a great way of doing it. It's a fabulous, very fun and interesting way of raising your self-awareness. So in 2 weeks, that's actually going to be what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how to start your journey first time in new experiences, and what the benefits of that journey are. So 2 weeks from now, 20th January at 4 p.m., same time, same channel, we're going to go through, like I said, the benefits of starting your journey first time and new experiences. All right, so I invite you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and subscribe to the channel. So every other week we do one of the webinars. Then we have How To Friday videos, the first time challenges. So if you haven't already checked it out, check out the first time New Year's resolution challenge. Go ahead and leave us a comment. Let us know what your first time New Year's resolution is. And then check back in, subscribe, hit the bell so that every time a new video is dropped, you get, YouTube lets you know, so that you have all the tools that you need to continue to grow, to do your self-development, through action-based. So everything that we covered today are things that you can start. As a reminder, if you want the exercises, if you want the actual like exercises, so the timeline, the questionnaire, the tree, the more of the how to, you know contact. So Anne at 365firstchallenge.com, contact at 365firstchallenge.com, and we'll get you those. We'll get you signed up for a newsletter. So great stuff always going on here. It's going to be an incredible 2021. All right, Michael, do you have anything to add?
No, it's very well said, Anne. I guess the only thing is, yeah, awareness is huge. It's you're not aware, life happens to you.
Yeah, sure does. There's a lot of feedback coming in.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like Michael said, like I said at the beginning, right? Life happens to you. So, you don't just at one time do everything and become aware of who you are and then forget about it. It's something that is constant. You have to keep doing. All right. Well, that is it for uh, for tonight. And like I said, I hope that your New Year's